Hi, this is Scott with the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for February 10th, 2023. And just a friendly reminder, this product is not meant to replace the daily forecast, so please check the forecast each morning. It's published at 7 a.m. So we're going to take a quick look at the past, present, and future. What happened, what's going on right now, and what to expect for this weekend and early on the work week next week. So brief recap. The northern mountains got about 8 to 12 inches of snow last week, and as you move to the south and east, the snowfall amounts diminished. So 4 to 8 inches up around Galena Summit, 4 to 6 inches as you get closer to the Soldiers and the Baker Creek area, and then 1 to 3 inches in the Wood River Valley. One thing that was constant was wind. We had several days of fairly strong north and northwest winds, which affected not just the alpine upper elevation terrain, like in that picture that you see on the right, where you see wind drifting and dunes and scallops all over the place and some isolated wind slabs too, but also at middle elevations like that photo on the left, where we were building relatively isolated wind slabs. They're isolated to just underneath ridge tops for the most part, but there's a lot of wind-blown snow all of last week. So recent avalanche activity, not much. When we were looking at this graph back in December, we'd see like 100 or 150 avalanches in the past week. That size D2 or greater, which is big enough to bury someone. This week we had one that we observed or had reported to us. That was an avalanche that Ethan and Ben saw up in the White Cloud Mountains a few days ago. Even though we didn't have a lot of large avalanches big enough to bury people, we did see and trigger and saw natural avalanches, a fair number of smaller slides. So these are not big enough to bury someone, but they're big enough to carry people or move you around to places where you don't necessarily want to be. The photo on the left is up in the Sawtooth. That's a small, hard wind slab avalanche that Chris triggered when he was out. Intentionally triggered it. You can see his ski track there. And the one on the right is outside of Haley, looking up into Colorado Gulch, a natural wind slab that failed right underneath the ridgeline. We also saw a fair number of loose snow avalanches, which were kind of interesting. They were also wind driven, where the wind was transporting snow over that ridge. So from the side of the ridge that you can't see onto this side of Della Mountain, which is right outside of Haley. And most of them were starting as these point releases or loose snow avalanches, but it wasn't the new snow that was causing the hazard. It's the upper like 6 inches of the snowpack there, because it's barely snowed in 3 weeks or a month. So the upper 6 inches or so of the snowpack is so weak that just that little bit of wind-blown snow coming over the top caused those facets, or those real weak sugary grains, to create sloughs and come down. And they're usually not a huge deal, but you can picture like if you were standing above those cliffs or really in any of these avalanche paths, because they all dump into the river, into the Big Wood River down below. So they can have serious consequences, even though they probably aren't big enough to bury you. And we did have a group over on Carbonate Mountain outside of Haley that had a similar avalanche to one of these come down. It's not sure if it naturally released or if they triggered it from up above, but it did almost knock one of the folks over who was skiing in that party, which, in the wrong terrain, they can have really serious consequences. So even though they're not that big, these loose snow avalanches are something to pay attention to. So the danger rating was moderate throughout all our zones at upper and middle elevations last week, and low at lower elevations. And then we shift to the present. So this is the forecast from today, and this is the Galena Summit, but it was the same danger ratings in all our zones. Moderate at upper and middle elevations due to that increased wind effect, and low at lower elevations. So what's going to happen this weekend? Well, the weather forecast, it's looking like a pretty quiet couple days of weather, where we'll see partly cloudy to mostly clear skies, with highs in the upper 20s to low 30s and low temperatures We're probably going to continue to see inversions where it's warmer up high at night and colder down low in the valleys, especially over in Stanley and Smiley Creek, and fairly light winds. So it's just generally speaking a pretty quiet day of weather that's not really going to do a lot to promote avalanches or instability. No snowfall on the horizon Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. So avalanche danger and problems for the weekend. So the danger, we would expect that it'll be slowly decreasing. It's not going to happen all at once, but just a general improving stability trend, and really no glaring avalanche problems. There's no in your face, wow, you really need to look out for this because it's really widespread. So instead, we have a few different things to look out for. Some lingering persistent slab problems, and one, I'll touch on these a little bit more here in a second, including one that's kind of a burgeoning, new to us persistent slab problem that's just starting to come into play. Some lingering wind slab issues from the wind event from last week, and those loose snow problems that I was talking about, where you have these sloughs coming down that can take you to places that you don't want to be. So looking at the persistent slab problems, we have a couple different layers in the upper and middle part of the snowpack where there's that snow near the surface. So if you look at the picture on the right, and that's in the mountains outside of Haley, just south of Della. And yes, this avalanche did fail because of wind-blown snow. It's pretty obvious. You can see all the ripples and dunes there. But it also pulled back up, way above where you would expect just a typical wind slab to break. You'd expect a wind slab to break right underneath that ridgeline, but this pulled up on top of it, which is a good indicator that there's some weak snow underneath that wind-blown snow that's also contributing to the problem. So while that weak layer near the surface, it's probably not going to do anything where it's in sheltered terrain, but where it's wind loaded, you may see wind slabs that behave in a kind of unpredictable manner where they're touchier than they would be, or break higher up on the slope than you'd expect them to. And that's because of that weak snow there. And the photo on the left, you can see that weak snow. This is a more southerly aspect up in Baker Creek, where it's a matrix of crusts and weak sugary faceted snow in the upper 6 inches or so, as opposed to on more northerly and easterly aspects where it's just all faceted snow, just all sugar. So as that gets loaded, wherever there's a wind-blown snow on top of it, you might find some relatively small but still touchy avalanche conditions. Then we're still concerned about in the photo on the left where you see the 1/5 layer, which is 1 to 2 feet deep, really 1.5 to 2 feet deep in most places now. You'd have to get a little bit unlucky to trigger that, but it's still in the realm of something that's possible. And then we also have a third problem. Again, it's not likely, and this is a video that Ethan and Ben made that's on our YouTube channel. You can find that if you go to YouTube. You can subscribe to it. Sawtooth Avalanche Center is the name of our YouTube channel, and the video is available here. That's the URL for this one. And this video is up in the White Cloud Mountains, and it's kind of highlighting some places in the eastern mountains where there's a lot of alpine terrain, a lot of above tree line terrain. So think the White Clouds, Boulders, and Pioneers, where you have a really thin variable snowpack. You can see the, almost pieces of there's some rocks sticking up through there and just a really shallow snowpack. And then you see these big wind drifts interspersed among the really shallow areas. And that's a good place to get into trouble, because you can actually trigger these layers of really weak faceted snow that are laying underneath really hard stiff slabs up in the Alpine. And I'd encourage you to watch this video. Ethan does a great job explaining what's going on there. So danger and problems Saturday and Sunday, finishing up the talk there. Where is it the most dangerous? On very steep slopes, so steeper than 35 degrees and probably approaching 40 degrees. So slopes that are in that prime time, like 37 to 45 degree range, that are also wind loaded, where you'll find stiffer snow that keeps your skis or your snowmobile up either on or near the snow surface. So not really low, fluffy powder, but think stiffer snow, and where you see obvious signs of drifting. And then also I'd be aware of places where there's consequential terrain below you. That means where you could get pushed into a lake, a river, a creek, or pushed through trees or carried, into a gully. So like the example of those slides above the Bigwood River by Della Mountain or over by Carbonate, the close call that group had. Those are great examples of places where there's consequential terrain and you really need to keep your head on a swivel. So the weather forecast for next week, you can see a little blip of moisture coming in on Monday. This is the NBM, the National Blend of Models, their forecast for the mountains just west of Smiley Creek. And it's shown, 1 to 3 inches, not a very big storm on Monday. That storm does come with some wind, and then another pulse of moisture coming Saturday, Sunday, but really another pretty quiet week of weather as far as precipitation goes. We do see the winds kind of kick up on Monday with that snowfall. So we would expect, the little bit of snow and some potentially strong winds, and in conjunction with colder temperatures, a significant cooling event on Monday through Wednesday. So kind of a repeat of this week where things are going to cool off, snow a little bit, and blow pretty hard. And we'll probably get another round of wind slabs, loose snow avalanches, and persistent slabs. So danger will rise a little bit as we get into the work week with that additional snow and wind. I think that we'll probably need to be paying a little more attention to those weak layers that are closest to the surface as they get a little bit more snow on them. So those crusts and facets that I was showing on the southerly aspects, and that really weak snow on the shadier aspects that already has caused a couple avalanches that seem to be behaving like persistent slabs. And then a new crop of just pure wind slabs. So just isolated drifts and slabs that are pretty much relegated to right at ridge tops and on the sides of steep gullies. So again, just a gentle reminder to check the forecast at 7 a.m. each morning. You can sign up to have it emailed to you, so it's in your inbox every day. You just enter your email address at the bottom of any page on our website, and you'll be signed up. Please let us know what you're seeing. It's a huge help to get information, and we've been getting some amazing observations from all of you out there this year. So please keep them coming. It really helps us create better products and give everyone a better idea of what to expect when they're going out and riding or skiing. To submit the observations, you can either click that button, submit observations, again at the bottom of every page. You can text them to us at that number there. That goes to a account that all of the forecasters have access to. And think snow.